Number 24, the argument requires which of the following assumptions? What's the missing assumption in the argument? Let's read the paragraph and see if we can figure out what the whole is. The more profitable that a corporation is, the more valuable its manager's time is. And therefore, it's especially costly for highly profitable corporations to have their managers spending their time monitoring employees. Makes sense, right? That's a waste of time and therefore a waste of money for the managers to be spending their time monitoring, watching over people. Such corporations can therefore save money by reducing this monitoring, right? The less of that monitoring they have to do, the more money they can save. So far, that makes perfect sense. As long as the employees are given strong incentives to keep working hard, right? In other words, if you stop monitoring them, it's only going to save money if they keep a strong incentive to work hard, right? Because if they're not working hard, if you have to watch over them, and if you don't watch over them, they're not working hard anymore, then it's probably not going to save you any money to reduce that monitoring. Okay, so that all makes sense. And now the conclusion goes a step further, and the conclusion says, therefore, so, hence, thus, highly profitable corporations can save money by doing what? By giving their employees expensive bonuses. Always pay attention when something new is brought up in the conclusion, a novelty that's in the conclusion that was not mentioned anywhere else in the paragraph, right? Especially on an assumption question. That's going to be where the assumption lies, right? There has to be something assumed in order to make that conclusion because there's no support that says anything about giving employees expensive bonuses. That was something new. So clearly they're assuming that that connects to something in the support of the paragraph, right? We're saying corporations can save money. We did talk about corporations saving money, right? How do corporations save money according to this paragraph? By reducing monitoring while giving employees strong incentives to keep working hard. And the conclusion says, therefore, these corporations can save money by doing what? By giving their employees expensive bonuses. Now let's think about it. What does this person clearly think giving the expensive bonuses will accomplish? In other words, how does it connect back to something that we said in the paragraph? Well, I think it's clear that this person is making the assumption that giving the expensive bonuses is going to accomplish that strong incentive that we mentioned, right? Giving them a strong incentive to work hard. That's what an expensive bonus does. It gives them a strong incentive to perform well so that they get that expensive bonus, right? The reducing the monitoring has nothing to do with the expensive bonuses, right? Reducing the monitoring, we already know is going to save money if you reduce the monitoring because according to this paragraph, it's a costly expense. The thing that you also have to do is to give the employees strong incentives to keep working hard. And that seems to be what this person is assuming the expensive bonuses will accomplish, right? So in other words, the support is saying that these corporations in reducing the monitoring can save money as long as the employees are given strong incentives to work hard. And the conclusion, that's the support is saying, and the conclusion is saying, therefore, these corporations can save money by giving their employees expensive bonuses. So that's the two dots that need to be connected, is the giving the strong incentives to keep working hard, and then assuming that that connects to giving the employees expensive bonuses. That is the assumption that has to be made here, which is that those expensive bonuses actually do give strong incentives to employees to work hard. It makes perfect sense, but it is an assumption. It was something that was said in the support that was substituted with something else in the conclusion. And those two things you're supposed to just assume are equal to each other, right? They equate to each other. The expensive bonuses is that strong incentive. It was never said explicitly, though, and therefore that's the assumption. So let's see if we can find that in the answer choices that basically says that these corporations that act in this way, that give their employees expensive bonuses, are thereby giving their employees strong incentives to keep working hard. That's going to have to be assumed in order for this argument to be cohesive and to make sense. Let's look for that in the answers. A says that the argument is assuming that only a few corporations, only a small amount of corporations, give their employees bonuses that provide strong enough incentives for them to keep working hard even when they're not being monitored. Now, is this something that the argument has to assume? No, it seems to be limiting. It seems to be sort of weakening the argument, because the argument is saying that giving these expensive bonuses can save you money because it's going to provide that incentive. A is kind of limiting that. A is saying, no, only a few corporations can accomplish that, can give their employees bonuses that are going to be strong enough incentives for them to keep working hard when they're not being monitored. So A is kind of weakening the argument. A is saying, no, this is not going to work most of the time. This thing that this person is arguing that highly profitable corporations can do to save money, A is saying, no, there's only a few corporations that that's going to work for, right? So A certainly doesn't have to be assumed for the argument. It's going in the wrong direction, right? It's limiting, it's almost weakening the argument. And therefore, why would A have to be assumed for this to make sense? It's just the opposite, and therefore A is wrong. B, does this have to be assumed? If a highly profitable corporation could save money by giving its employees expensive bonuses, okay, halt, time out. That if part of B if you're paying attention, you should notice that that is literally the conclusion. The conclusion of the paragraph says highly profitable corporations can save money by giving their employees expensive bonuses. B is saying if that's true, if highly profitable corporations could save money by giving its employees expensive bonuses, comma, then something else is true. Now, it doesn't even matter what the something else is. B cannot possibly be the right answer because it's conditional on the conclusion being true. The way that assumptions work is that assumptions help prove the conclusion. If support, then conclusion. B says you have to assume if conclusion, then something else. It doesn't even matter what that something else is. There's no way that this could possibly have to be assumed, right? We just have to get to the conclusion. B is kind of arguing past the argument. B is saying, okay, once the conclusion is true, if that conclusion is true, then I also know that something else is true, right? Now, that's not going to help us prove the conclusion. We need to know if support, then conclusion, right? If you say if conclusion, then something else, well, that's assuming the conclusion's already been proven true, and therefore, that's not going to help you prove the conclusion, right? And therefore, B is not going to be right for that answer, for that reason, excuse me. So if we keep reading B, what does it say? It says, if the conclusion is true, if a highly profitable corporation could save money by doing what the paragraph is saying, it is because giving such bonuses would reduce the amount of time its managers must spend monitoring these employees. It kind of is going backwards, right? Because what we wanted to say is that because it's reducing the amount the managers are having to spend monitoring the employees, that's why it's going to save money by giving expensive bonuses. It's kind of backwards. It's sort of just in a convoluted way. It's taking a bunch of words from the paragraph, but the conditional direction is going in the wrong way, right? We wanted to say if support, then conclusion. This says if conclusion, then kind of support, not exactly even really though. But the point is you can recognize it right off the bat as being wrong by the fact that it's a conditional statement that is conditional on the conclusion being true. If conclusion, then ... that's never going to be the right answer to an assumption question. That's why B is wrong. C gives us a linear relationship. It says the more valuable the manager's time is at a corporation, the less likely it is that that corporation will actually have those managers spending time monitoring the employees. Now, that does not have to be assumed. Why would we have to assume a linear relationship? The more valuable their time is, the less likely that they're going to be spending time monitoring the employees. Why do we need to know a statistical piece of information about likelihood of how managers act in corporations? That has nothing to do with proving our conclusion. Our conclusion was about expensive bonuses, and our conclusion was assuming that those expensive bonuses are providing strong incentives. C is more of a statistical assumption about what corporations do in real life, right? What do they actually do? Statistically, if you look at 100 corporations, what would you notice? C is saying you would notice that the more valuable the manager's time is, the less likely that that manager spends time monitoring employees. That has nothing to do with proving the conclusion in this paragraph, which is more of a recommendation of what corporations can do if they want to save money, and therefore C is not going to help us out. D tells us that for people who are employees of highly profitable corporations where monitoring is reduced, aka the corporations that we're talking about in this paragraph, right, the highly profitable corporations, where we are talking about reducing monitoring, D is saying if you're talking about these corporations and they're reducing monitoring, D tells us that expensive bonuses in these corporations are going to be strong incentives to keep working hard. That's exactly what has to be assumed, right? That's what we said when we read the paragraph. That was the missing assumption. That was the line that had to be drawn from the support to the conclusion. The conclusion mentioned expensive bonuses. It didn't qualify, didn't say anything about those expensive bonuses. And it seemed to be assuming that those expensive bonuses are the strong incentives that we need, according to the previous sentence, right? And D is putting that into words. D is exactly the assumption we're looking for. And if you don't assume D, the argument makes no sense, right? If you don't assume that expensive bonuses in these corporations give strong incentives to keep working hard, then how on earth would this conclusion be true? The conclusion tells us that these corporations can save money by giving their employees expensive bonuses. But according to the paragraph, according to the previous sentence, you can save money as long as the employees are given strong incentives to work hard, right? Well, if an expensive bonus is not a strong incentive to keep working hard, then how are you going to save money by giving expensive bonuses, right? And therefore, if you don't assume D, the argument doesn't make sense. It's not cohesive at all. It doesn't make any sense. Therefore, you have to assume D. Therefore, D is the right answer. E tells us that a highly profitable corporation can save money by reducing its manager's monitoring of employees only if those employees are given expensive bonuses. Now, this is kind of restating the argument, restating the conclusion, mostly, right? It adds in a few extra words, but it's pretty much restating the conclusion, but it adds in the word only, right? It says only if the employees are given expensive bonuses, meaning that's the only way to accomplish it, right? You don't have to assume that. You can never just add the word only in and expect it to mean the same thing. What are we trying to say? We're trying to say that these corporations can save money. Look at the conclusion of the argument. Highly profitable corporations can save money by giving their employees expensive bonuses. It's not arguing that that's the only way to save money. It's just saying that that is a way that they can save money. Now, E says it's the only way. The only way to save money is if they give expensive bonuses. That doesn't have to be assumed. Why would we have to assume that for this paragraph to work? There could be 99 other ways they could save money, and this is just one of them, right? So E is going too far. It's not a necessary assumption. Why would you have to assume this, right? And E doesn't help us out, right? Why would this help us out to know that that's the only way to save money? We're trying to prove that it is a way to effectively save money. E is essentially saying there's no other way to save money, but that doesn't help us prove that this is going to work, right? So if you're trying to prove that they can save money by giving expensive bonuses, telling me that that's the only way that they could save money is not going to help us prove that it will save money, right? And therefore, it's not going to help us out here. It's certainly not a necessary assumption, and it's therefore not the right answer. And most importantly, it very simply just doesn't fulfill our prediction. It doesn't tie into the novelty of the conclusion, right? The expensive bonus. It doesn't tell us that that expensive bonus is a strong incentive. That was the missing gap that we knew had to be connected, and therefore E is not going to help us out because it doesn't fulfill that gap. If you found this video useful, don't forget to hit subscribe. And for thousands more clear LSAT explanation videos, go to masterlsat.com.